Thank you so much for taking the time to learn about human trafficking awareness and response. I am Catherine Kessick, the Executive Director of VAST, the Valley Against Sex Trafficking. Our mission at VAST is through collaboration, education, and advocacy, we empower survivors and encourage our community to take action in the anti-trafficking movement. VAST is an information and referral hub. We're a connector of services. We also conduct victim outreach, presentations, trainings, and prevention work. VAST provides aftercare to survivors through survivor empowerment and an annual survivor retreat. And co-facilitating with me today is one of our collaborative partners.
I'm Carol Anderson, the CEO of Bloom, a nonprofit organization with the mission of providing sanctuary and a continuum of care to heal, empower, and employ women survivors of sex trafficking.
The federal definition of human trafficking is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of a person by means of the threat or use of force, fraud, coercion, or deception for the purpose of exploitation. Force, fraud, and coercion are not required for children under the age of 18 induced into commercial sex acts. Trafficking can be identified by the act, what is done, the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipts of a person, the means, how it is done, threat or use of force, coercion, abduction, fraud, deception, abuse of power or vulnerability, or giving payments or benefits to a person in control of the victim. The purpose, why it is done, which includes exploiting the prostitution of others, sexual exploitation, and forced labor. In 2019, the Human Trafficking Hotline reported 11,500 cases and 48,000 contacts through phone calls and texts to the Human Trafficking Hotline. Pennsylvania is ranked number 9 of the 48,000 contacts in the country. The top 3 states are California, Texas, and Florida. Pennsylvania is ranked number 4 in the country for trafficking prosecutions. Media portrays trafficking in a different light, a white van, an abduction. However, this is not the case. As you can see, traffickers are usually someone the victim knows, someone they trust, such as a family member or boyfriend. Traffickers identify and leverage their victims' vulnerabilities to create a dependency. For example, if a victim is homeless, the trafficker provides stable housing. Traffickers mostly control their victims with drugs and emotional abuse. The victim becomes dependent on the trafficker and a trauma bond is formed. A trauma bond can be defined as an emotional attachment that is developed out of a repeated cycle of abuse, devaluation, and positive reinforcement. Traffickers can be anyone: intimate partners, family members, restaurant owners, gang members, or individuals with power and authority. Trafficking hides in plain sight. It can be found in hotels, massage businesses, on the streets, and at truck stops. Traffickers exploit their victims using online platforms like OnlyFans. It is important to point out that the grooming process can start online as well. Grooming is the process traffickers use to control and manipulate someone into human trafficking. Although the specific actions are different, traffickers usually follow the same steps: gain the victim's trust, provide for the victim's needs, isolate the victim, and force the victim into trafficking. Indicators are both physical and controlling. For instance, when you see a couple in a public place, is the man controlling the conversation, not allowing the woman to speak? Does something look out of place? A man with multiple women, perhaps? Do they have a visible tattoo that could indicate branding, such as a crown or a barcode? Do they appear to be under the influence of drugs or alcohol? Some victims do not identify as being a victim and might not be willing to accept support. They might be experiencing fear or anger. Over time, the trauma bonding will strengthen, making it more and more difficult for a victim to recognize clear signs of emotional or physical abuse. The trafficker will positively reinforce certain behaviors, basically training the victim to stay and continue to give their love to them. I encourage you to pay attention to your body language, tone, voice, and empathy while engaging with the victim. Share messages like, "I believe you." If you can speak with the potential victim, ask if they are safe. Observe their behaviors and reactions. Don't remain complicit. If you see something, say something. Approach a police officer and inform them that you see something that disturbs you. Please don't put suspected victims in harm's way. For example, do not offer support if an alleged trafficker is present. Don't feel discouraged if the victim does not want help. You saw her and you heard her. You planted the seed that she is worthy.
Bloom offers hope and healing to survivors of sex trafficking. Our model is simple, providing safety and restoring dignity for women survivors and supporting them as they begin to heal and rebuild their lives following horrific violence and injustice. The women who come to Bloom share a universal story around sexual violence and assault that they have carried on their individual backs. On average, the women that we serve were first raped between the ages of 7 and 11, and they hit the streets between the ages of 14 and 16 years old. None of the women we serve ended up on the streets by themselves. It takes a bunch of broken systems and communities for the women to find their way into being runaways, to being trafficked and prostituted, and sometimes addicted. So it makes sense that it takes communities to welcome women home and to provide the resources in a place where we can all be restored and live safe and meaningful lives together. Bloom offers an invitation to start over. No matter how many times a woman has attempted to leave her trafficker or exploitive situation, been in treatment, incarcerated, or walked in and out of the doors of recovery, we believe it's never too late to start over. Our programs offer a continuum of care to survivors of sex trafficking, prostitution, sexual exploitation, and addiction. Each of our 4 homes are named after flowers, and together these homes can care for 19 women. Heather House is an emergency stabilization home that is staffed 24 hours a day, where a survivor can stay for up to 90 days as she plans the next part of her starting over journey. Jasmine House is a 2-year therapeutic recovery-based residence, and Lily and Lilac House are transitional homes for women who successfully complete the programs at either Heather or Jasmine House. Graduates move through the programs and build lifelong friendships, life skills, and a vocational history so they can go on to live independently, reconnect with family and children, mentor new participants, and contribute in meaningful ways to our communities. The National Human Trafficking Hotline is available all day and every day and provides support and resource referrals to victims and survivors. They also collect data and advocate for system change in the effort to disrupt and prevent human trafficking. VAST is our local prevention, community education, and survivor support resource right here in the Lehigh Valley. Bloom is our local residential services provider. Our referral line is the first step in providing safety and sanctuary to survivors. We are here to support victims, survivors, and our neighbors, and work in collaboration to end trafficking in our communities. Thank you for joining the fight to end trafficking.